All right. Hello and welcome to our second session of Vigor here with folks from Gauntlet Hangouts. And we're finished with our initial building of some story threads and characters. Well, very nearly finished with building some lead characters. We've got a few touch-ups here to add to Jason's character, Sandor. But we're going to get into that. And then we're going to get into some actual playing of characters and setting scenes, and it's gonna be bananas, I promise. Let's start off, Jason, with just getting you kind of finished off here. I added a doc, an email, and here in the journal of Roll20 as well. For oh no, look at that! I didn't manage to get it in the journal. My bad. Anyway, let me just snag it from the email thread. But then I'll pop it into the chat here so you can have quick access to it. The long and short of it is you've done kind of the big bit. We've got your sketch. We know that you're Sandor. You're the father of the current archivist who was stripped away from you at an early age by someone who was a former love interest, and maybe again. Or you might just prove that love's not worth it, which is, I think, one of your narratives. So, yeah, that's exciting. So we've got all your kind of role play stuff taken care of, but what we want to do is determine your starting qualities, and then you can spend some creation points, basically, which sounds incredibly powerful. Points of creation. So let me just pop this screen up. Everybody can see it. These are what you can spend your points on. Effectively, here you've got, so you've done, I'm going to scroll up. You've done this bit of creating your roleplay prompts. You need to set one of your qualities to +1 and another to -1. And then there's just the 10 points to spend. You've got 4 spent for an asset already. And then all this other stuff's kind of up to you, how you see your character. Questions, comments, concerns, criticisms, other things that start with C.
No. So I have to set my qualities, one of them to +1 and one of them to -1, right?
Correct.
Okay. And what is PRES and UND? What are they short for again?
Yeah, that's presence and understanding.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, presence just being your personality and closeness and leveraging your force of character and that
I'll
sort of sense.
I'll take my +1 in presence and then my -1 in guile, because I think I'm very like transparent kind of person.
I love that. That sounds spot on. Cool. And
I don't know if I can change that or if.
Oh yeah, I here's the.
I'm in view only, so
Oh. Let me fix that. Are you in the character keeper though?
I am in it, yeah.
Cool. I don't know why that is view only. Probably because I don't know what I'm doing most of the time. But
if you just go to share and then like and then just like where it says you should have like an option, the little pop-up that says get shareable link. Just click that and then make it an editable link.
all right, sorry, just a second. I'm trying to get that back up because I lost my buttons. Okay, you should have it now. If you refresh it, you should be able to edit. Sorry about that.
All right, and then after I do that, I have how many? I do what? Spend my creation points.
You do. You've got 10 to spend.
Mm-hmm.
You can spend them for more vigor. Vigor allows you to overcome the odds. It kind of protects you from bad stuff happening sometimes. It allows you to change the narrative, all of these sorts of things. So it starts at 5. Setting it somewhere between 5 and 10 to start with is usually pretty decent. It just depends on how you see your character. If they rely more on their stuff or more on their zhuzh.
Okay, so all right, I'll probably take like 2 in vigor. So that raises the max and the current, right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. And then waypoints. I know there's a list of waypoints somewhere, right?
There is. It's on the it's in the Roll20 journal.
Yeah, I found it.
Grab it. You got it?
Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, we've got a lot of folks with journeys. Journey of the Hook, which is kind of the storyteller, emissary, roving peddler, the person who talks a lot.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of those. But that's not to say we're not looking at like party balance or something like that. We're looking at like
Sure, yeah.
the story you want to tell.
I looked at some of these last week, but I've kind of forgotten. I think I'll probably do like. I think I want Shelter from the Storm, which is the point. Is that
Yep,
allowed?
absolutely. Yeah, any of them are fair game. Yeah, so Shelter from the Storm allows you to basically there's 2 phases of play. There's like the venture phase where all of this free play is happening, and then we go into a regroup phase where you have a chance to recover and stuff like that. So the point is able to help us all have the proper number of actions we need in the regroup phase if we have less than needed for some reason.
Right. And then how much does that cost me?
2.
So I've got 6 more to spend.
You have a rating 4 asset with this piece of code.
Right.
If you want that, then you can change the rating of that. I rated it arbitrarily at 4 because if it is what it says it is, it seems pretty effective.
4, yeah.
So then I've got you 2 more to spend if you want.
Oh, okay, got it. All right. Okay. In that case, I'll just bump up my vigor again.
Okay, cool. 9. It's not just German for no anymore. It's Sandor's vigor. Okay. Cool. Well, great. So we've got your characters all done. Dunzel Washington. And we've got the full cast. Speaking of the cast, just as a way to recap and kind of remind ourselves of where we are, maybe let's just do a quick rundown of the characters, kind of introduce your character, something about them that matters to the story, and that's anything else you want to add, obviously. Hop to it.
Dylarama, you want to go first? Since you're first on the sheet.
Certainly. I'm Ferret. I am playing Dylarama, the previous Archivist, who is the earliest one to ever debauch. And during her debauchery, she ended up paralyzed. So now she is dependent upon the society she veiled, for lack of better terms.
Awesome. Do we want to define what that debauchery was, or are we going to let that get defined in play, do you think?
I have an idea, but I'm also fine for it being defined in play.
Ooh, I'd love to see it just as a flashback when we want to see a scene of you, because isn't that one of your is that one of your roots or something? Does it have something to do with?
It doesn't
Well,
have
no,
to
not
do with
exactly.
no. It
Oh, I was thinking of Frist, who has the wedding ring of the person who debauched you.
yeah, it deals with that wedding ring.
Okay, I'm into that. Yeah, let's see that as a. We'll maybe see that as a flashback scene during a regroup phase, and you
Gotcha.
can spill the beans then. Watch this space. Who's next?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jason.
Oh, you're the archivist, right? You're not.
I am. Yeah.
You're not Frist. I'll go. Sandor, since I'm next on the sheet. Yeah, I'm Jason. I'm playing Sandor. I have always had a problem with the hierarchy's machine. In fact, more than a problem. I think I'm a member of a sort of like rebellious faction that wants to get rid of it and reclaim a sort of like this more like pastoral way of living. And it was a shock to me when my kid was chosen to be the archivist. And yeah, that I have a pretty complicated relationship with the archivist, my son. I have a pretty complicated relationship with the person who sort of took over as the fatherly duties of my son. Yeah, and I think I'm just now that the machine is like, now that all these changes are happening, and now there's this danger. I'm best about to shut the system down, get my son out of there. So.
Save it for the stand, Tom Jane. Just want my kids back.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I am said kid. I am the archivist. That is my name. My title is my name. My name is my title. So I'm kind of the person in the society who's in charge of interfacing with. Remind me the name of the machine. But it's basically kind of our artificial god in a sense. I input as objectively as possible information about what's kind of going on in the world around us. And then I'm also the mouthpiece for what I hear back from that machine. So yes, I was taken away at a very young age, raised up to do this job, and now I'm doing it.
Yeah. So much to play with in all of those scenarios. The machine, Chris, you were fishing for the name. I don't think we named it. I think we just kind of left that as it's a computer, an ancient underground computer. And where we left off last week, we basically kind of set it up that you've been doing this job for a while now. Yeah, I mean, since you were a baby kid, or however young you were when you were taken.
Yeah, in my head, it's like 4 or so.
Okay.
And I might not have started right away, but I imagine it wasn't too long before I was brought in to start actually doing it.
Cool. And that's been all going according to plan until suddenly your input was met with an error message, and the machine, the computer, refused something about what you put in, and it claimed to dissent. So there's some protest with the machine. I imagine there's some protest elsewise as well. So that's pretty much where we stand in terms of the threads that we have in the fiction. Lots of tangled relationships, especially amongst Sandor and all of these bits and pieces. But obviously that kind of glues all of these interpersonal things together. We have kind of a meta plot thread going on. How much we want to bite into that right away or leave it, that's totally up to y'all. And that pretty much brings us to the present. So the question is, where we want to start this story. What happens first in this movie in our minds, and the story that we're playing here? It can be anywhere in this continuum of like, we just need to set a scene that kind of establishes our now. And if you have an idea, just roll with it.
I think it might be interesting to see a scene with Dylarama and myself. Maybe the scene is like we're meeting in a public place or something, and I think the point of it is I'm like kind of grilling you about like what happened to you. How did you break free of the machine? Like, what do we have to do here? Right. That kind of thing. Does that sound good? Okay.
Sounds fine.
Awesome.
So, yeah. Cool. Well, so now we just role play or what?
Yeah, you can just go for it. If you want, we can also set up some other trappings and that sort of stuff. I'd love to know like where this is happening. And I could kind of see this as being, Jason, I don't know how you imagine that Sandor came to the hierarchy here, but in a lot of ways, this is hostile territory.
Sure.
So I could see this as being like you pounding on the front gate, like, let me in. I
think it's, I imagine
but
it's like kind of like maybe just outside the hierarchy at a bar,
Yeah.
honestly, like at some kind of like place where, and you just happen to be there, Dylarama. And
I was thinking like maybe it's like some kind of park just outside of that. It's supposed to show like the beauty of the hierarchy to those outside of it to want to join.
oh, sure. Yeah.
And she's bringing just tons of party material because fuck the hierarchy.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I'm fine with the bar though as well. If that's if you're.
Oh, no, I think that's great. No, I like the park idea.
Yeah,
So,
I think there could be this whole kind of town square thing, right? Where it's there's the park, and it's kind of this just really like kind of gaudy display of splendor amidst a fairly decrepit looking, dry, barren sort of patch of ground with these little lean-tos and tent flaps and dust flying around.
I could see it almost being like a sort of this town square idea of it being almost like a Disneyland presentation, right?
Yes.
Like this is, like how amazing this is, guys.
Like all the fruit trees are just for show. They will never grow fruit.
Right, yeah.
How could they? How could they? Yes.
And so maybe we're sitting at like an outdoor bar, like a little outdoor area, and it's maybe it's a warm, pleasant day, and I think you probably know me and my history, and I know you and your history.
Oh yeah.
And I would say, so what happened to you? How come you're no longer strapped in to the machine?
Well, the straps that were holding me didn't keep me tight enough at first, and to be honest, people found out what I was doing.
Which was?
Okay, I know that your people, and she leaves that hanging in the air to just as weighty as it needs to be, are celebrating now that the hierarchy only has 5 heads instead of 6. I'm the reason there are only 5 now. I was sleeping not only with the minister of the Hussite branch, but I was sleeping with his wife. We were actually sleeping above a very fine parlor that night, over a glass floor to get the view and maybe be caught. We were caught. I was shoved out of the way. The floor did not hold. I fell through, and she'll point down to her wheelchair, have been summarily strapped since.
Well, that's certainly the kind of degenerate behavior I would expect from somebody so closely tied to the hierarchy. I mean, obviously I'm not one to judge necessarily, but it's not completely surprising to me that you would turn to licentiousness and pleasures of the flesh when you are surrounded by nothing but artifice. And that's what all of this is, isn't it? Artifice. It's not real. It's not like it used to be.
No, and she'll pull her pinky nail is exceedingly long. She pulls out a small tube, dabs it into her nail. But sometimes artifice does have its benefits.
I guess that would be the case. Like the benefit of creating a structure by which the poor people of this nation are routinely victimized and made prey to the extravagant hungers of folks such as yourself. I do go on. Listen, it sounds like what you're saying to me is if any archivist were caught engaging in an illicit romantic affair, that they might lose their position, that they might be cast out like you were? Or was it something particularly about your behavior that got you kicked out?
It's not just licentiousness. It's you can do drugs. They're expected. You can have
Why?
sex.
Why are they expected?
Because they're everywhere, darling.
So
You can't get away from them. But no, as long as it doesn't affect how you input and you're not high when you input, it's fine. As long as you're not having sex while you input, it's fine. But if you have sex with someone you're not supposed to, and that is a very long list, my friend.
But only while you're trying to input.
No. You see, this is where the proprietary nature of this rather plastic location comes in. No affairs. No people of the hierarchical standing that are supposed to interpret what you input. No one who is a caretaker. It goes on.
So you can have as much sex as you want with peasants and underlings and non-hierarchy people. Is that what you're saying?
Sadly, yes.
This is an utterly debased system. So
it churns out misery, doesn't it?
No, I don't blame you for wanting to get out. I assume it was something of a conscious, or at least semi-conscious decision to do what you did.
I was dragged kicking and screaming from my parents when I was 7. I was forced to input when I was 9, the youngest archivist ever. I chose my way out. It may not have gone to plan, but I chose to get out.
What do you think of the current archivist? Just out of curiosity.
He's a good kid. Not as young as when I started, but he seems to believe in what he's doing. He seems to actually want to help people. Seems less self-focused than I was.
Well, he must be a very, very special person.
All archivists are.
I give you a sideways glance.
I return it. You can tell my tongue is so far in my cheek, we're almost kissing.
Mm. Well, that feels good to me.
Yeah, awesome. So this scene kind of closes as, are you folks parting ways here, or is this kind of festivity kicking up?
I don't know. You think?
I think like I'm giving you a distraction by I'm still the old archivist. I'm going into a party to draw the eye away from you so you can sneak off in case anyone notices you.
So you folks have priors, yeah? You have a little bit of a it sounds fair, like you're saying that you're kind of, as much as there's a little animosity here that we're sensing and a lot of tension, there's a little bit of understanding.
There's one thing I did not tell Sandor. One of the ways the Archivist can get not only dethroned, but killed is to deal with rebellion. I want it out at any cost.
There you go. Cool. So the two of you kind of hang there. I think if everybody's cool, right around that moment, the fountain in the square kind of kicks on, and there's this sputtering of like, air in the lines for a bit, and then it kind of starts to gurgle and bubble, and it kind of trickles at first down the sides of it, and it starts to fill up this pool. Just kind of a ichory black inkiness that starts to fill this fountain. Um, and it's a symbol of, excess and hierarchy, power, and that sort of stuff, because this is some of the crude that they've been mining recently from the latest dig site that's been set up in the works. The works have been kicked into high gear lately, and that's kind of what this festivity is meant to mark, is a time of excess and celebration where they've struck a vein somewhere in the works, and a lot of crude has started to come in, and they're trucking it in however they can. There's just loads and loads and loads going back toward the forge every day, and everyone sees strings of these little caravans, and probably even some humming by in the background as this festivity kicks off. The celebrant of the festivities steps up and bows low with a big sweep of their robes and says, "Ladies and gentlemen, and, well, however else, you are welcome. And I mean that in every sense of this word. You are welcome. You are welcome to come and experience the riches of the hierarchy. You are welcome to come and lend your strength to this great endeavor. This black gold." And they dip their fingers down and kind of trail it through the pool and lift it up as it kind of just drips down a little bit. "This is the future calling you. Too long you've lived out here in the dust, out here in the wastes with nothing except what you can cobble together with your own hands and scratch out of the stubborn sod with a trowel. No more. This is the future."
Can we react to that, or is that just a bit
Absolutely.
Okay. That was just a bit of color, which I loved. I would immediately, completely losing my sense of propriety and self-preservation instinct, I would call out, I would say, "That is the death of our land. That is the death of our way of life."
Your way of life. Guards, please, would you help this gentleman to find his manners? Your way of life is wanting.
And I think I'm going to do my best here to get arrested. I think I want to be brought closer to the hierarchy power structure, and I just want to go for it. Like, do we have some kind of like do we have like gear or weapons or something like that?
Not so much, but
if it makes sense for us to have it, we can just have it, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's only becomes important to the roll of the dice if it's an asset. So yeah, it's there. And yeah, this sounds like a great chance to kind of start up our first roll of the game, our first action roll here. Describe for me what happens as,
so I think
you kind of go for this.
Yeah, I think what I'm going to do is, as he says that, and the guards are like kind of oppressive, the guards approaching, right? I think I would say some kind of like rallying cry, like some kind of, I don't know, like, I don't, what would the land be called before it was the hierarchy? Like, what was the old name for it or whatever? Do you think?
Well, so the name for the setting is Vest. But
I'll say, okay, got it. That's perfect. I'll say, "Long live old Vest," right? Like that. and I will just like I will rush the celebrant like to like. I mean, it's essentially like a political assassination, right? But if I have like if I have like a knife or something, I'll rush him. And I don't know if I'm gonna actually try to kill him, but I just want to get arrested.
Yeah. Into it. Yes. So this is kind of a complicated role, right? Because what you want is to fail, but what you want isn't about the like physicality of it. What you want is for the result of you being arrested and that sort of stuff to come off. To me, I could see that being about your presence. I could see it being about your guile, or just about. But it doesn't feel, I guess, to me like it's about your agility or brawn.
I think it's probably my guile. I think it's that's my poor stat, and I think that. There's like this is a stupid idea, right? It's kind of a fundamentally stupid idea,
right?
And so, yeah.
Okay,
I play to lose, so
yeah, exactly. That's what makes the fiction go. That greases the wheels of stories. Here we go. So here's how you make a roll. A standard action roll in Vigor is well, a couple of things, just technology-wise. Because the sheets are a little broken on Roll20, I've put out a little stopgap. If you go onto the Roll20 virtual tabletop, you'll see your names there. If you click on your name, you should see a list of buttons pop up. And then one of the buttons is an action roll.
Where's this list of buttons?
Oh, it's so do you see the tabletop that says threads and your name's under it?
Yeah, I'm so bad at Roll20.
That's okay.
Hold up for last. You just, I mean, what am I rolling even? Oh, I can't hear you, Jake.
Yeah, sorry. It'll be an action roll, but I mean, I'm happy to start it off here for you. You'll click on action roll if you see it, and then it's going to ask you what quality we're using. You said you're using your guile, yeah?
Right.
So then we set the odds, and this is kind of the fictional positioning, right? So it's like, okay, well, what are the odds this actually works for you? And this is up to the table: slim, fair, or promising.
I mean, I think it could be. I think it could probably be in the middle because I could get arrested, but they also could just like beat the shit out of me too and leave me there. Right?
I was thinking the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. Which I think would be the fail here, right? If they just like beat the shit out of me and don't arrest me.
Okay. So we'll set the odds to fair. And then are you invoking any of your natures here? Like these are all just kind of the different things that eventually we'll get used to this a little bit.
I don't think so.
Okay.
No.
Yeah. This is not a situation where you're blinded by your hate, hurt, or devotion. This is a situation that's very calculated, right?
Yeah.
Totally. Into it. All right. And so then here we go. Get captured on purpose. Of 0. That's not right. All right. So that roll didn't work, but it rolled a 2 minus 1 from your guile. So that's a 1.
Okay.
So that's a low roll.
Okay.
As we're looking at I'm just going to present this screen to you all so you can kind of see it as we go. The way that we judge the rolls are off of the tiers of success here. Right now we're working on the fiction. So we're looking at these up here. The result fell into the 1 to 3, which is a no and. Now, here's the thing, though, that I failed to tell you before we rolled, is that you can, first of all, spend Vigor to change the odds. That would have made it promising. But right now, what you can do is something called change the narrative. And we can just basically say, okay, instead of a no and, what I wanted was a yes or a yes and or a yes but. Anywhere on that category that takes it up to the result you want to see in the fiction, Then we build a dice pool and roll to see how much of your vigor it takes or how much corruption you incur in doing this.
Can I do a no but?
Yeah.
Okay, because I think a no but leads to an interesting place for me.
Yeah.
Do I get to say what the no but is, or
We all do. I mean, yeah, it's up to the table. So if you've got a good idea.
yeah, my idea is they just beat the crap out of me as anticipated, but I managed to grab something from one of the guards, like a security ID or something like that.
Yeah, I love it. That's perfect. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to change the narrative here. The dice pool is only 1 because we're changing the tier of success by 1.
Okay.
So you could have incurred as many as 4 dice here, but as you step up 1 tier, you roll 1 additional die in the pool. So 1 die. There aren't any modifiers on this one. When you change the narrative, it's just kind of a straight roll, and it subtracts your current vigor from it. So here we are. Hey, you nailed it. It's easy to do this here at the beginning of the game, right? Because your vigor is full and that sort of stuff. So you rolled a -3, which means you got 3 under your current vigor. So you do it, and your vigor is enough to kind of give you this ability to turn what looked to grab slightly different failure from the jaws of failure. So yeah, you want to narrate this scene?
Yeah. So I think what happens is, I stand up, I yell this thing, I yell this like, long live old vest, right? And which is exactly what I'm going to say next time I'm in my closet and I see a really great vest I don't wear anymore. I'm going to yell, "Long live old vest!" I said, "Long live old vest," and I rush forward, like really dramatic, and the guards rush forward and they just beat the crap out of me. Like they're just kicking me and they throw me down and like they kick me in the jaw. Like it's really bad. There's a bit of scuffle though, and in the scuffle, I managed to grab an ID that will let me get into the hierarchy a little more surreptitiously. So.
I love it. Yeah, awesome. So you're gonna take a wound here, a degree of wound, as you said, beat the shit out of you. And those range from like 1 to 4. This feels to me like you're not dead, but you're
2. Right?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too. All right, so you've got now a 2nd degree wound, and you can throw some flavor in that if you want, but basically, you were beat up by some guards and left there on the in the dust out in the public square.
While he's being beaten up, Dylarama is given a pair of scissors and cuts a ribbon in front of the oil fountain. Citizens, be well. Punch, punch, beat up. Ah! This is a sign of your freedom and the wonders of the hierarchy. Be well. Friendly wave as she goes off as Sandor's being beaten up.
Oh, that's so good. Oh, beautifully. A beautiful encapsulation of the hierarchy there. They giveth and they taketh, and they handeth out a beating. Cool. So you've got a wound, Jason. The way that wounds work is going forward until you have a chance to heal that. It's a minus the degree to your roll when it comes up, when it's relevant.
Right.
Okay, so I think we've got a good scene stage there. Sandor kind of raises up to their hands and knees in the dust and spits out a mouthful of blood, and then kind of like looks down at their hand, and we see that they've got
the camera focuses on my hand.
Yeah,
I've got the security card. So
perfect. Okay, so that's a good scene there, and maybe a decent time for our first break. If you want to, anybody want to grab a quick 5?
Yeah, sounds good. I think James is joining, right?
Yeah, give James a bit and he should join.
Perfect.
Cool. All right, see you soon.
Hasta soon. I think we've got everybody back now. Yeah. Sweet. So, yeah, we had Sandor in the dust, coughing up blood, grabbing a key card. We had Dylarama perpetuating the festivities and maybe making a little bit of an alliance or something thereabouts with Sandor. And we learned a little bit more about their background as well. Just a like thing to keep in mind. I feel like you both hit this really well, but like the how we play the game is as we stage these scenes and play it out, we were trying to look for ways to involve our role play prompts, like your narratives, Jason, of telling a story of the world before, and Dylarama, Ferret, you had the how do we serve a system that has failed us, and we got a little bit more of your, you didn't lie. Yeah, that's an easy one to hit. Every time you tell the truth. Yeah, so as we play out these scenes, you kind of draw from those things, your narratives, natures, and roots, to help tell your story from your character's perspective. And when we hit our regroup phase, we'll kind of assess how we all did at that, and you'll get some advancement points. However those work out. So yeah, let's get back to it. I'm curious as to see what's going on kind of in the inner workings here with the Archivist and Frist. Yeah, Chris or James, do you all have ideas for where we pick up with your particular stories? They don't have to be together either, it's just we just had one pair.
I actually do have a thought that probably would involve both of us. So we might find me, plugged in, and I'm seeing this message that we kind of alluded to at the end of last session, beginning of this one, that says, I dissent. And the thing that's so weird about this, like we mentioned last time, is that typically the machine outputs stuff in the second or third person. This is the first time that anyone's ever heard of it doing something in the first person. And so I'm very taken aback by this. And rather than try to input anything else or try to converse, because you don't converse with this, you just input and you get the outputs. I'm going to unplug and go seek out Frist and whoever else I need to talk about, like, okay, so something weird just happened, and what do we do about it?
Yeah, I love it. Let's see that scene between the two of you, or it doesn't even have to. However you want to play that out, I guess is all I'm saying from there.
I think I probably would seek out Frist, since they're my mentor, and basically taught me everything I know about being the Archivist. So, like I said, this is the first that I know of this happening, but I've maybe they know something more. So, I would just go find Frist, and I imagine they're close on hand whenever I'm plugging in, and basically just say what I just saw.
Can I want to get a sense for what happens to you. We don't have to roll this or anything, but I want to get a sense for what happens to you when you unplug. Is it the same as always, or is something else different? Just you're left with the kind of lingering whatever.
Actually, yeah, I've got a thought there. So typically there's like this little, like, it's a little bit of a weird sensation of kind of like reacclimating to being back on my feet and whatever else. Kind of like being back in my own mind and not sort of merged with the machine. But what's especially weird this time is, and I'm not sure if I'm just like, if my mind's playing tricks on me because of what I just saw, being a little bit freaked out, but I felt like there was another presence there, like another person. And that's lingering longer than it typically does.
Creepy, lovely. All right, so you're on your way to see Frist. Let's play on.
Let's see. I'm trying to think if there's a title or something. First, do you have any ideas for what I would call you?
Probably mentor was the most accurate.
Mm-hmm.
I think mentor would be good.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I would come in and Say, pardon the interruption, mentor, but something very strange just happened with the machine.
What is it?
I think it spoke to me. It didn't output. It used it spoke as though it was a person.
So, what did it say to you?
I made an input and there was an error. And so I tried several more times and then it said, I dissent.
It said I? So, here Frist would kind of take a step back and start flipping through paperwork and some stuff that's in the room, like flipping through books, clearly looking for something to reference this. Normally, Frist is very composed, very slow about this sort of thing, and you see him kind of rapidly pulling at the shelves, digging through books, because Frist clearly isn't okay with this. Something's wrong, and Frist is now panicking a little bit, and you can see that. You don't really see your mentor uncomposed, so it'd probably be one of maybe 2 or 3 times. So Frist is now digging frantically. He hasn't found anything yet. They're still looking. And after pulling out 3 more shelves, Frist just stares back at you and says, I don't know.
Let's have a roll here. From you, James, for Frist. I want to roll just to see if we can help have the fiction prompts give us a little bit of an interesting place to take what you find from your research.
Sure.
So I think you missed this bit, but on the Roll20 tabletop, do you see that where it says thread?
On the tabletop where it says thread?
Yeah, and you see your name there?
I actually, so on Roll20, it's super zoomed in, and I'm having a very hard time looking at it.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, you can. There's a zoom slider on the upper right hand side.
Okay, cool.
Oh,
okay. Yeah, no, that fixed it. Thank you.
Yeah, so if you just click on Frist's name, you should see some buttons pop up.
Yes.
Okay, click on action roll and walk through this.
So would that be understanding, you think, or?
I think so. What do you think?
Okay. That's what I was thinking, but I wasn't sure, so I wanted to ask.
No, it's up to you all. You use what quality you are.
Yeah.
And the table just says like, yeah, sounds good.
Understanding seems accurate for the situation because I'm looking through prior knowledge and trying to figure out how this fits into other things here.
Yeah, I'd say that feels like promising odds, right? This is all information you have and you have time. Anybody feel differently? Okay, cool. So your odds are promising.
Okay.
And you're using your understanding. The next window that you pop through says what?
It says just submit and other modifiers, nature's assets, waypoints.
Oh yeah. Are you using any like? This would be a place where you're able to call upon one of your natures if that works, but it doesn't seem like.
Yeah. I don't think this fits any of my current waypoints or anything like that. So I think I'm at a 0 modifier here.
Sounds good. Just submit that, and we'll see what happens.
It said notes. Do I need any notes?
Nope, not unless you want them.
Okay.
Hey, a 9. Cool. We have that falls onto the yes but tier of the fiction prompts here.
Okay.
So a 9 tells us that yes, you find some information, but something else. I've got a few ideas. Because first of all, I was looking at your information broker waypoint, and I thought that it'd be cool to have you get an asset out of this that you can use. That's some of the information here.
Okay.
But we need to determine what that information is. So you've said that you didn't find any kind of record of this before. But what do you find that doesn't quite add up?
So I don't find a record. What I find is a gap in records. I find that there are several decades where we don't have any records. After one of the entries talked about a similar undertaking to what the machine is trying to do now. So we've seen a similar undertaking before. We didn't see anything about dissenting or it speaking to us, but suddenly there's a 40-year gap in records.
Oh, that's so good. Nice. All right. So you want to add that to your character sheet wherever you want. This is an asset of gap in the records, or however you want to call it, whatever helps you remember it. Let's give that. Here's what I'm thinking is that like that's cool information, but there's not a lot to it, and you might have to have talk some folks into it. So I would call that maybe a 1 or 2 asset rating.
Okay.
Awesome. So yeah, do you tell the Archivist? Play on.
I told her I found nothing. Or him? I'm sorry.
It's him. Yeah, him.
Okay. Sorry.
No worries.
I found nothing.
Technically not a lie. Okay, what do you all do from here?
What did you tell the input? What was your input when?
So this is one that I think I'd like to open up to the table. Is there something in particular that we think I input that would bring up that response? Or is it more just kind of like it seemed like it wasn't responding to anything in particular, just
I like the idea of maybe we have maybe the hierarchy has these like archaeologists who go out to find things or dig for things, and they brought back some tablets, and it's typical to like enter the data, right? But this is like this is the data that woke up the machine, right? Something similar.
Yeah, some sort. I love that. That's like so
Lovecraftian, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So like there's the dig that's going on out there in the works that's rumbling the earth, and folks are trucking in crude. And there's these tablets that have come in. And yeah, as the Archivist enters these tablets, the machine puts back, I dissent.
I like to add, I like what Jason came up with. I also like to think that these tablets are like something the computer normally does take, but maybe they're from like a different type of computer, so it's just like processing errors in a way. Like there might be another one out there.
Ooh, cool, yeah. So you're almost like an old school programming card or something like that, where it's like it has to actually read the punches and stuff like that, but it's having some sort of error with this, but it also seems to trigger something in it.
Yeah, it's like running an exe on a Mac or something like that.
Exactly.
But there's an exe reader somewhere deep down, and that's what
that's the whole point of our story now. We got to find it. We got to find some sort of extension.
Yeah. So actually, and then I think then that would add that detail that it was acting normally until I started trying to input the tablets. And then that's when I got the errors until eventually it just stopped giving errors and said, I dissent.
Frist would be silent after that information and would take a notebook and start writing. If it keeps speaking to you, ask it more. If it speaks, ask.
speaks to the machine as though it's a person.
It spoke to you as if it was.
Very
If
well.
it's acting funny, we might as well see what's up, if you can.
I'll do my best.
And don't spread this. It will just cause needless panic.
Another one of your lies. I understand.
Do you say that out loud?
I do. I'm pretty sure they taught me this. So
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
it's not even veiled, right?
Mhm.
No, it's totally like you have to know like what lies to tell, right? So you just don't mention it. This is a lie of omission.
Awesome. So, are you back? Are you going back to the computer, or are we want to see a different scene right now?
I could do that now, or we could go to another scene. I'm cool with switching over to someone else.
Well, I'm curious to see Sandor getting back in and how that all works out. I'm also curious about the computer, and I'm curious as to Dylarama. Is stuff going down at the festivities? Were you like cut and run, or are you?
Oh, I was like, I wanted to like run into the Archivist as they were making their way to the computer.
Love it.
I mean, if that's okay.
Have that scene. That's great.
Yeah, so Dylarama was definitely a cut and run. She does not want to stay and see Sandor get beaten. And it's sort of like one of those things like, you could have just asked. I would have given them a reason. It may not have been a good reason, but it's a better reason than charging with a knife. And
had you said that to me, I would have responded, I don't need your help. Fucking former archivist.
another lie. This game is full of them. And she's gotten to like I think the top. She has clearance I think due to her robes, and she's on the floor. And there's always that sound of her wheels slightly metallic on the floor, echoing a bit in this grand hallway. And she sees the Archivist and stops, like sort of side swipes right in front of him to stop, and is sitting sideways. She picks up one of her useless legs and places him over in its beautifully crossed setting. So, did it end early today, your input?
Yes.
Then why are you headed back?
There were tasks left undone.
Oh, certainly Frist would not have trained you to leave things undone. He was a meticulous, abrasive bastard.
I'll take the blame.
I don't think that's... I think they're lying to me. Is there any way that I can parse that? Or, like, read a person?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds... so we don't have a lot of PvP built into the system, but it basically is a roll-off. Like, this is a fantastic way to stretch that and test it out. We haven't gotten a lot of it. So, it depends, Chris, on whether the Archivist is trying to hide anything or trying to be an open book or whatever.
I'm trying not to share specifics, but I also don't think I'm lying in that, again, lies by omission. I am speaking truthfully when I say there's stuff left undone.
True.
Okay. Here's what I'd like to do then instead of a roll-off is, Chris, I'd like to have you set the odds for Ferret's Dylarama to get information.
So when we say information, do we mean something useful, or like maybe the success is they know that there's something up versus not being suspicious?
Yeah, I think you can decide that based on the way the roll happens.
Mhm.
But I think in general, the odds would establish how willing. I want you to establish them because it how willing you are to
Yeah.
part
And
with
I'm not asking to roll to know exactly what happened. I think
Mhm.
that would be boring.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to know that, like, are you hiding something, or like, do you really feel like you just slipped up?
Mhm. I think I'm going to give you fair odds. Because I think that while you're not my mentor, I've got a certain level of respect for you as a former archivist. We've probably talked before about the job. So you might know me well enough even just to kind of pick up on some subtleties.
Gotcha.
Love it. So yeah, fair. Just click on Dylarama and then click action roll in Roll20.
Understanding, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, you could, if that's how you feel it, that sounds great.
I think I'm understanding his body language and how he's talking.
Cool. Into it. So you're at fair odds for your understanding.
And I don't think that anything will. Unless it's the robes he respects, I don't think anything adds to this.
Chris, do you respect the robes?
I would say so, because that plays into, like I said, kind of that level of respect.
So I would add 3 because the robes are 3.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
A 9. No, that's not right. This isn't adding correctly. Sorry. 4 and 6 is 10 minus 1. That one did right. 6. Oh, no, it is right. Never mind. I'm lying. You guys are rubbing off on me. A 9 is a yes, but. So how do you, Ferret, get, or how does Dylarama get what they want, but not all the way? And that's for you and Chris to play out.
I think I get the idea that something's wrong, but I do not associate it with the tablets at all. I associate it because this is like one of the count on the time of your hands times he's inputted. I'll shake my head. It's like, it's very draining, isn't it?
Yeah.
I understand if you get tired. I understand if things don't feel right afterwards. It's flesh meeting metal. She looks down a bit, and you know what I mean, of course, but you are one of the few who know what I mean. If you ever need anything, I know what my reputation is, but I'm here for you. I'm here for you in ways that no one else in this place is.
I appreciate that.
And hey, I mean, I crushed one of the factions. Maybe I can be the head of the next one.
I'll see you in the court then.
And she'll head off, leaving him.
Cool. The door to the machine slides open as the archivist approaches, and they breathe in, breathe out, step in, and the door closes. We cut to Sandor. Trying to get into the hierarchy? What are you up to?
So my little I was I was about to make a criticism of the other characters, or at least the way they do business, by saying that why lie when you can just like yell "Long live Old Vest" and get yourself beat up and in order to accomplish your goals. But then I realized that I was also being duplicitous because I was trying to grab a security key, and I did. So I have my security key, or I've got this. I think it's like a little like a little badge thing that you would like wave in front of a some kind of biometric thing or something. I don't know anything about technology, but basically it would identify me as that guard, and I would go in. I don't think I'm personally not super interested in like the sort of spy versus spy sneaking into the hierarchy part of it, as I am like I'm just in, and maybe I run into Frist. That would be fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And if I recall correctly, James, we were like lovers for a long time, right? And you Like, I believe that you are my lover because you just wanted to get close to my kid and steal him away to be the new archivist, but that's actually not true. That's just my misunderstanding. But obviously, I'm sure you can understand why it looks that way. And so, but I need to be reminded though: is Frist man, woman, NB? What's Frist deal? I can't recall. Thank you. So if anybody's watching this, Andy. So I would like for the scene to be like Frist and I. Like Frist, that just happens to be the first person who I kind of run into, right? That'd be pretty great.
I love it. So like the door to the machine closes, and then the cut is the door opening.
Right. Yeah.
And it's you standing there with a key card.
Right. Yeah. And maybe I get a little bit in, and I'm trying to just be like a little bit kind of like, inconspicuous or whatever. Right. Is this the kind of thing that like, just so I understand the hierarchy, is this like a super packed place? Like, are there lots of people roaming around, or is like barely empty?
That's how I feel. Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
there'd be a lot of folks just kind of like milling about. It'd be easy to get lost in the crowd.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Until you get into like the more secure places, and who knows how far that key card goes.
And per James's note, as Frist is hurrying to consult themselves to find out more about the records gap. Okay, that's great. So you're already like kind of under a certain amount of pressure, right? So that's great.
And on your way to like what the library or like your independent like own study, or where are you headed, Frist?
Frist was definitely headed towards a library that was specifically for archivists. It's not really, there's multiple tiers of that library, and you can only get so much information out when you're no longer the archivist, but as the mentor, they had more access still. And they, yes, the archives. I love that. That was super simple. Thank you, Chris. I was trying to get to the archives, and we run into each other basically on the way, I guess.
Nice.
Do you like actually bump into each other and you knock the papers out of their hands?
Oh my god.
I would love that. That would be super, super unsettling for both of them.
Yes, I think so. Because it's like such a like meet cute moment, but like this is not a meet cute at all. This is a meet hate, meet anguish, right? So yeah, I run into you, and once I realize like who you are, I'm like, oh my god. Of course you're the first person I run into here.
What are you doing here, Sandor?
I pretended to assassinate a local celebrant from the hierarchy so that I could get beaten up savagely by hierarchy guards and steal a security key and sneak my way in. I say that like almost sarcastically, like I expect you to not believe it, right?
Did they know your face when you did it?
You know, I find that members of the hierarchy they often have their heads somewhere in the clouds or up their own behinds. But in any case, they definitely did not notice who I was. Or I suspect they would have taken me and I would have been thrown into a prison cell.
I just don't want them to know who you are, period, if you really did that.
Oh, you mean like you don't want them to know that I am the biological father of your new computer boy king? Is that what you're saying?
No, I mean, like, I don't want you to get murdered by hierarchy officials, and I would like to prevent that. Thanks.
I have way worse things to fear than being murdered by hierarchy officials. What do you care, anyway?
Why wouldn't I care?
Well, let's just say based off our last interaction, how we left each other, Frist, I didn't get the distinct impression that you cared much about me or my feelings or my fate or really anything that wasn't to prop up all of this.
If it wasn't me who took him, it would have been someone else, and you know it. It's not like it's a choice I made.
I can't. No, you are not going to. You are not going to pull the wool over my eyes on this, Frist. It's not going to happen. I don't buy for even a second, that what we had was real, and that what you were doing by taking my son from me was charity.
I never said it was. And I never said it wasn't real for a reason. It's not that I didn't know.
You didn't know what? You didn't know that. You
I
didn't know that.
I didn't know he was chosen until a week before he was taken, before I took him. I've told you that 1,000 times, and you know
And
it.
1,000 times I'll respond, I can't even begin to comprehend that the idea, the notion that just pure happenstance, the one time in my life I do something like have a relationship with someone from the hierarchy, and now that after that one moment, it just happens to be my kid that was selected. If I recall, before we first hooked up, it was you who initiated that contact. Wasn't me. That was your plan all along.
Clanking footsteps down the hallway.
So as we're just sitting here having a lover's quarrel, we hear those footsteps.
Yeah, there's someone coming around the bend who is more in the top brass as well. There's an attendant or two with them. Obviously, not your department, but
I think I know what I would respond. I would say something like, well, if you're so concerned about my fate here, Frist, if you're so concerned, this is a really good opportunity for you to start earning some chits toward me believing that.
Yeah, actually, I need you to escort me, Archives, now. Trust me, please. Just.
And I do, and I say, very well, hierarchy person Frist. Come this way.
-1 guile.
That's totally that's my -1 guile at play right there. So I guess I assume this is a roll, Jake.
Yeah, let's see. Let's see how you all do it getting out of here on your own terms.
Okay, so who's making the roll here, or how does this work?
How do you want it to roll? We can do it a number of ways, but basically, what is your hope here, the two of you?
I mean, I'm happy to deposit Frist wherever, and then I'm going to go continue looking for my son. So.
Yeah. And Frist's goal is to get Sandor into the archives with them to kind of look for more information. But they can't do that till they're down there. So they're going to try to make it, posture like this is the guard escorting them to the archive.
Oh, so you're actually kind of pulling one over on me, because I don't care to go to the archive with you, but I like the idea of getting wrapped up into whatever you're doing as well. So,
yeah, well, once I tell you it's related to protecting your kid, you'll probably care.
Yeah, that's good. Well, so I think so in the short term, Jake, it sounds like we're just trying to escape, essentially.
Sounds good. Then let's have you, whoever wants to do it, make the get out of here undetected roll.
I'm happy to do it, since I kind of called out the.
Sounds good.
The incredibly convincing.
We'll see how convincing it was.
Yeah. Hierarchy person Frist.
Oh man, that's good. So yeah.
Okay, so yeah, remind me how to do the roll. So.
Do you have Roll20 open?
I do. Yeah.
Where you can see your name.
Do you mean like on the little chat part? Is that what you mean?
No, just on the main desktop where.
Oh yeah, I do.
Yeah, so just click that and then click on action roll. let's see. Frist, you can lend a hand here. That's a support mechanic. If you want to, you would just spend 1 vigor to kind of boost the chances of success of this if you want to.
Definitely, because Frist would be using all of their presence, their holy symbol, all that to kind of try to, look, I am a former archivist. I am the current mentor. Let us go.
Yeah, great. So you'll, Jason, you'll roll. This will increase your odds by 1 step. So whatever the table sets, it's going to be 1 better.
Yeah, I'm still trying to find just like the roll thing. So like I'm looking at you mean my little like label at the bottom of the screen?
No, right underneath where it says threads on the desktop. Like it's possible that yours is way zoomed in as well, but
yeah, it might be because I just don't see. I just have blank white space. So
oh, okay. Try just kind of like scrolling up. You might see some greenish stuff. It should look like this.
Yeah, I don't see anything.
So if you see on the Hangout screen here that white bar in the top right of my screen, do you see that on your screen?
You're not presenting to me. I just see your face.
Oh,
there we go. Found it. Yeah, the little on the right hand side. Yeah, I've been fiddling with that. I just don't see it. It could just be I need to refresh. Maybe I don't know.
Well, I don't either.
But you can roll for me though. It's fine.
Sure. Here we go. So I'll just click on your name here, and then it's an action roll. Are you guiling?
I think it's guile. Yeah.
I think so too. What are the odds that we want for what do the table feel?
I feel like it would have to be pretty high considering I do have a member of the hierarchy with me who's fairly high ranking.
Yeah, that's definitely going to improve it. Like, do we want to set it at promising already and then say that their support takes you up to promising and you roll 3d6, keep the highest 2?
I think it would start as promising, yeah.
Okay. So then you're
rolling. I agree.
All right, so then we're adding a die and submitting. And any of your nature or assets coming into play here? I don't think so.
Don't think so. Blinded by hate, hurt, devotion. No, that's actually the opposite of what I'm doing right now.
Yeah. You are still wounded, is the thing.
That is true. Yeah.
So I feel like your conspicuous beat upness.
If I'm like bleeding and bruised, yeah, it could be a problem.
You haven't recovered from that yet. All right, so that's going to be a -2, but you should be in good shape otherwise. Let's roll to find out. That's not right. Come on, math. Okay, 7, 6, 5. Okay, so you're in a no but. Again, you all can change the narrative if you want, or we can roll with the no but if you want to.
I'm cool with a yes but.
Yeah, I thought you said that it would go 1 step up from the chart 2 with Frist assisting. I don't.
Oh, sorry, no, not 1 step up on the fiction. 1 step up in the odds.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So what does it cost to go to a different narrative position?
We'll just be changing the narrative here by going from no but to yes but. Is that what you want?
I think so, because and I think what the but might be, what I would offer is that, like, yeah, we get away, but I don't get to continue my search with for the Archivist. I'm kind of stuck with Frist, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm into that. So that's just one tier from where you are. So that's 1d6 to change the narrative, and yeah, you hit it. You hit that again. Oh, I guess it's not possible for you to not hit that at this point until you're unless you're trying to do it a little further. It's a good note for me to have. That might need to change. Anyway, yeah, so you do it. You change that up to a yes but, and you all kind of make your way away. But do you? So you're saying, Jason, you're stuck with them now?
Yeah, I think I'm stuck with them, and I think it's like I mean, if you're cool with this, James, I think it's kind of like we get to the archive and I'm like, okay, well here, I'm like, the coast is clear. I'm gonna go. But as soon as I say that, like, I think that there's starting to be like security patrols like coming by and like or maybe there's like a tour coming through or something weird like that, right? And I have to like, and I'm kind of stuck for a little while.
It's that same celebrant from the town, and they're
exactly who I pretended to assassinate. Yeah, exactly.
They're leading the new recruits that flocked to them from the presentation, all through the showing the hierarchies. Cool. So you do it. You get away. You are down in the archives now. Is there anything in particular you're looking for, or do we want to see the machine scene?
I think this would be a good place to cut and come back in a little bit.
Sounds good.
Just 'cause, yeah.
Yeah, let's see what's going on with the machine and the computer boy king.
All right, so I figure I'd probably waste no time in plugging in. Although, I guess we didn't previously see cinematically getting set up before, but there's a bit of a hesitancy, a bit of kind of not a reluctance per se, but definitely kind of taking my time. I'm not hurrying to get in this thing. And I plug in and kind of like we do the whole kind of like sync up whoosh of mind melding. And then I'm basically at the terminal again in my mind terminal. And I'm going to try inputting one of the tablets again.
Cool. Let's roll to find out lawnmower man effects. Yes, more of that. Let's roll to find out what happens. So yeah, Chris, just click on the Archivist, your name there, and it'll walk you through the prompts as we go here. What do we feel like the odds are for this? I'd be into seeing slim odds for this going off without a hitch.
I'm cool with that. I was honestly just expecting to get another error message anyway, so.
Yeah, we'll see. What do you feel like, as we set up the roll, what do you feel like would be your, like, what do you want here? Do you just want to do your job? Do you just hope it goes back to normal? Or do you want something more to find out?
I think this whole situation is very unsettling. But on the other hand, there's a little bit of excitement to it. I think I want to know basically if this is what I think it is, and then figure out what that means from there. So,
this feels like understanding, maybe just or is this more about your presence and your ability to keep your cool and do your job?
I think presence, actually.
Okay.
So how do I go about rolling?
Yeah, just click on your name on the Roll20 sheet, the Archivist, and you'll see some buttons pop up. Click on Action Roll, and that'll start walking you through the prompts.
Presence.
So you're at slim odds. Remember, you can spend Vigor to change those odds if you want. And you are using your presence.
I think I might apply my nature. There's always a compromise. The thought there being that if this thing is alive, then I'm going to see if I can work something out with it, essentially.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I love that. Then there's a +1 to it from your nature. Yeah. Oh, come on, math. I'm sorry. It's defaulting to not. I know it needs to be fixed. I'll try to fix it. It's only a 3 though, which is a no.
The title of Archivist have helped since he is the only one that can input?
Yeah, absolutely. Which would bump it up to a 6 if you want that to be relevant here, Chris.
Yeah, we can go with no but.
Okay, no but.
So, assuming you're on board with this, what I'm thinking is that almost as expected, the the input turns up an error, and maybe I even see the same message again, or maybe there's a different message of I dissent.
Yeah, I'm into that. So here's what I think I want to see is you put it in, the tablets are humming along. There's like some sort of scanner, or are you manually inputting this?
I'm thinking there's probably some sort of scanner, especially because it might be like this ancient language that no one recognizes.
Yeah. It's not like you have the squiggle key that you need. Cool. So yeah, it's scanning the data and you're melding with it, and you kind of see this scan turn around and it starts to process, and the text on the tablets start to just kind of glitch and fuzz, and it kind of crashes down with this almost modem-y sound again, and the pixels kind of just like reformat to shape the I dissent message again. And as you stare into that, those words just kind of get impressed on your mind, and that lingering feeling that you had earlier of like that some presence is still here when you kind of what did you call it, unplugged or whatever, you it's oppressive now. You feel like something is trying to get in. It's invading you almost at this point. And you, I think if you're cool with this, here's what I want to see happen.
Okay.
I want to see the machine just like cracks, sizzles, and we see the archivist just like drop, and it fades to black here. What do you think has happened to you, the archivist? Are you in just like total head to the hospital right now place, or?
Yeah, and I think that they wouldn't find any external injuries. But the thing that I don't tell them is that there's a voice in my head now.
I love it. Yeah. So I love that. Yes. I want you to take a condition here. It's not gonna, can we make this I'm gonna make this a level 3 condition, I think. Here's the thing to keep in mind though. Anyone can say, like, anyone can disagree. I am not the GM. I am stitching things together here. And I'm all for your own input. So I'm not trying to stamp my own narrative on this story too much, but I love the idea that like the archivist, based on this kind of no and just like, or no but, it is totally haunted at this point, and is in bad need of a recovery. So I'd say a level 3 condition, voices in your head, maybe something like that.
Yeah.
And I think that probably puts us at a decent spot for a break from the action and a chance to move to here's what I think. So that happens, and maybe these like klaxons go off as the machine has been like kind of compromised, and there's this red alert sort of thing, and it's like we kind of cut to a shot of Dylarama in her, maybe wherever you are, like kind of pacing the hallway outside. Even I don't know how concerned you are with it, but we see you just kind of like look up at this flashing light. Down in the archives, we see Sandor and Frist leafing through these tomes. Maybe Xander is just kind of like the equivalent of just on his phone, like totally waiting for the situation to change when this klaxon starts to go off. And there's this glance between Frist and Sandor. Is there anything, Frist, that you or Sandor you need to share in this moment, or do you kind of both instinctively know what's up?
I mean, I think like, is the klaxon, is it like going to be like a sort of like security shutdown thing? Like, are we going to be like, are we having an ER moment here? Are we stuck for the next 7 hours in this space, or like what's this? What's going on?
I'm into that. I mean, yeah. it's open to the table at this point.
I like that.
Yeah. I think there's always that episode of ER, Chicago Hope, or whatever, where they're like, like trapped in a rubble or whatever, and they have to bond. Right.
Yep.
In a certain sense, a machine shutdown is the same as a government shutdown. So
Right. Yeah.
Oh man, that's really true. Yeah. So it's not so much a klaxon. No. I like that. I like that idea. That like it goes and it's
Like a security shutdown. Like all the doors are locked. We can't leave.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah, that's great. Let's take a break. We'll pick back up in a recovery phase, which is a chance for us to. I'll walk you through it as we go, but basically we'll reassess the story so far, and we'll deal with any advancement and stuff like that, and then we'll see where we want to play from there. Cool. All right. Back in a few. Okay, we're back. In the midst of a government shutdown, that is also a computer shutdown. When your when your government is a computer boy king, you kind of reliant on all three of those components.
Have you tried turning me off and turning me back on again?
We need to power cycle the computer boy king. Someone help us with that. We're entering into the regroup phase of play, which is a chance for us to do a few things. One, we'll do things like assign advancement points and just generally talk about. It's kind of like a chance to do stars and wishes or roses and thorns or any of that sort of like reassessing of what's happening so far. Say, man, this was super cool when you did that, and also. As we do that, kind of examine our roleplay prompts, what we're hitting and to what extent, and if we want to change any of that stuff. And then, so that's kind of happening at the meta level at the table, us as players. And then you can also, once we kind of handle those things, we'll dive back into the characters part of the regroup phase, which is doing things like recovering from wounds, conditions, vigor, corruption. You can set roleplay prompts. You can set scenes to engage with your roleplay prompts and earn advancement points, or you can scavenge and craft and that sort of stuff, although might be a little tricky in this particular regroup phase to do that. So let's start with the first part of our regroup phase, which is just to do a little recount of the tale so far, what we're enjoying, and we'll also just kind of go through for everybody your prompts and assign some advancement points. So let's just start at the big picture, and then we'll work our way into the minutia.
Is there an order? Do we talk about things or?
Yeah, we'll just, if anybody has like a moment that they were like, oh my gosh, this was super cool and I love this,
Oh, okay.
go for it. Or like so basically kind of a stars and wishes place.
Star for, well, we're not using that language necessarily, but
Sure.
I will say that I really enjoyed the emotion between the scene with Sandor and Frist. I thought that was really great. I think it made for a good scene, and I like the kind of we alluded to it in the chat, but I like the sort of like the audience knows that like, okay, these two are going to like clearly make up at some point, but then that's going to get pulled out from under them as soon as Sandor realizes what's going on with the Archivist and like what danger they're in. So I'm really into all of that. I think that's great.
Same.
Yeah. Do we do the wishes too, or do we?
If you like.
Yeah. And I think for wishes, I really do. I do really quite enjoy the sort of vibe that Dylarama and I had going on. Like it was a sort of like antagonistic, but not like kind of also like a knowing antagonism, you know, in a certain way. Like we kind of get each other, but like, I don't know. I don't know. I kind of dug this sort of like vibe there. I'd like to see more of that. And obviously I'd like to have a scene with the Archivist at some point. So
that seems like we should do that. Cool. Yeah. So on that front, around the like either the Dylarama or Sandor vibes and or the Sandor and Frist vibes, do y'all feel like you hit any of your roleplay prompts in those sort of scenarios, or do you want to come circle back to that?
I think I was definitely hitting the second one for me, which is explain to someone that love isn't worth it. I didn't say it in so many terms like that, but I definitely expressed my deep cynicism about love and why people do what they do. So I think I'm probably like I was angling toward that. I kind of hinted at the first one in my little like kind of speech to the celebrant, or my little like kind of
Battle
words
cry.
I exchanged with them. But it wasn't. I didn't really tell a story, but I definitely was like kind of setting up for that, I guess. So.
Yeah, the way that we do AP for these sorts of things is like if you hit it in some way that was impactful for motivating you, or it was just a point in the fiction that was born out of those things. You
I mean,
get
I think like if the viewer of this movie were to watch that scene, they would cherish it. Like they would be primed for that, right? If even if I didn't like tell a story, right?
Yeah, totally. So we'd give like 1 point for some if it's hit in a minor way or out of a motivation, and 2 for if it comes up in a way that really impacts the fiction. So that's
I think it's probably 1 point for both then.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay.
So and yeah, you can hit that on your character keeper. I threw a little thing down there for your AP. You should be able to edit it.
Yeah, I got it.
Sweet. Cool. Are there any other roleplay prompts that you feel like you hit throughout that? I don't feel necessarily like. Well, I guess that's pretty much it. You hit your narratives, right? But we didn't really lean on your natures or your roots yet. Cool. All right. Who wants to go next with some stars and wishes, and then we can dig into your roleplay prompts.
I really liked. It was stupid, but I really liked the plan to get into the hierarchy. I have a knife, and then just the response to that. And I really liked how Frist is already manipulative, just right off the bat, like, oh, I found nothing. This is technically true. And then, of course, we have a virus downloaded on our computer boy king. Or as I might call him, because I'm a Linkara fan, the Tandy Whiz Kid.
So good. Yeah, I loved both of those moments as well. Like, I don't know, Frist, there's something incredibly beautifully sinister about them, like in really complicated ways. James.
And the only wish I have is to see how much more tied Dylarama is to the rebellion in the fiction than I thought.
Yeah, cool. Totally. And we at some point we'll probably want to put a little bit more meat on this rebellion and that sort of stuff. It seems like obviously Jason's character has some priors there and some ties there, but we're learning that Dylarama maybe has at least some hopes at some ties there or something like that. Yeah. It's cool. Very cool. Yeah, so let's hit your roleplay prompts. Right? Do you feel like you hit any of those, and to what extent?
I believe the lies are never called for, especially how open I was to my debauchery.
Yeah.
With Sandor. And I think it's kind of minor, but being there for the Archivist and just watching Sandor get beaten up while I did my duties are like minorly hitting this how to serve a system that has failed you.
I felt like you really hit that. Yeah, I to me at least, as knowing that the kind of meta information, I found it really easy to frame like who you were and who you were portraying around that like torn nature almost. Yeah. So yeah, I'm feeling like what do you got? A point in each or something on those?
I would almost say 2 points in the lies never called for, because we did set up that there were 6 like heads of the government, and one is now gone.
Yeah, that was cool. I love that. That's right. Yeah, take 2 in that one, and then hit 1 in your narrative as well.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, who's next?
I can go ahead and go. Excuse me. So a couple of stars. One we've already heard. Really enjoyed the scene between Sandor and Frist. That was well played. And then another star to Dylarama for kind of coming up with that cool backstory and kind of, like you said, playing that out, like just very upfront, very open. Like we know a lot about your character just like right off the bat. So I thought that was good. Wishes, actually, I think I don't have any in particular, except that I managed to see Dylarama get more involved to kind of see where that presence kind of leads as far as how it's going to affect the story. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that. As far as hitting narrative stuff, I suppose I could say there's always a compromise. Might have been hit like a minor one just because that kind of like got me back into the machine and how I sort of approached that. If you would all agree. And then narratives in kind of that same way, indirectly, playing the Seeds of Revolution, kind of it doesn't show in a very sort of tangible way just yet, but kind of that that interest in exploring this rather than being just purely afraid of it, because of what that could lead to.
Yeah, that's cool. So you're feeling like a point in each of those, basically?
Yeah, if you guys agree.
Good by me.
Cool.
I always advocate for like, yeah, take 2 for everything. Find out how advancement works.
Awesome.
But yeah.
So we just hit AP, like 1 check in each of those. Cool. Perfect.
Yep. You got it. James, talk to us about Frist and your own, stars and wishes and that sort of stuff.
So super major stars to pretty much everything that Dylarama and the Archivist got up to. I really loved that. I also definitely really liked the scene that I had with Sandor. That was really nice. I kind of want to see where that goes more because it's going to be really fun to see them kind of like push back at each other, and I can't wait to see where that ends up because they're either going to hate each other or love each other at the end of this, and I don't know which yet. It's great.
I think it's going to be a series of makeups and breakups, like back and forth forever. Yeah.
One wish I have is I really want to see Dylarama and Frist interacting again, because one of the things I really like about hearing more about Dylarama's involvement in that rebellion, Frist and Dylarama are basically mortal enemies trying to do the same exact thing. Because Frist has always wanted to serve everyone the best that they could, and Dylarama's doing the same thing. But from completely different angles, so I can't wait to see where that kind of goes, because I really want to see those interactions and how that's going to build up, and like they're really kind of established as at odds with each other ideologically in the worst way. It's great. I love it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Let's have a look at your roleplay prompts here for Frist. Obviously, you just hit the ground running with your lies, so that was nice.
Yeah, I mean, and I definitely think I did actually hit serve them your whole heart, because especially when I was talking to Sandor, I was kind of like, look, these are all of these sincere things. Maybe I wasn't always telling the truth about everything, but I was very sincere. I was kind of upfront. And I don't necessarily think that hit the win back my past love narrative, but I do think it hit the ensure the best future narrative, because I was working with the Archivist to make that happen. I was working, to find out what's going on, why I found nothing. And I think that kind of was more on the ensuring the best future, because right now I don't care as much about making up with Sandor as Frist here, because as much as Frist still loves Sandor, they've got bigger problems.
Yeah, I mean, all of that was yes and for me. That was cool stuff. And I think, however you want to tally that makes sense to me. I felt like in terms of like we didn't see a lot of Frist in the role play, but what we did was so huge, I thought. I'd say lies are simpler than choosing sides. I felt like that was a 2 because it just was so much of what you were about on a couple of on a couple of things. And then like you said, serve them in your whole heart. I felt like I could see 1 or 2 on that as well. I don't know how everyone else felt.
I think 2 is appropriate. Yeah.
Yeah. So that looks like a total of 4 for me in your natures. Um, and then in your narratives you hit what was it? Ensure the best future. And I think maybe a total of 2 in your narratives as well.
Yeah.
Because like both of those were like I'd say like maybe the win back your past love was like a half, and the other one was like a 1.5. So
Yeah.
that feels right to me. Cool.
We'll definitely see more of 2 if Frist and Sandor keep spending time near each other.
That feels like a thing that's gonna happen.
Jess, that my blinded by hurt might have come into play on my natures, because I clearly can't even hear Frist's explanation for what happened, right? Like she even or they even said rather like 1,000 times, like I've told you this so many times, and I won't listen to them, so.
Oh man, that's really clever. Yeah, Jason, I totally feel that. Yeah. So another nature's point or a nature's point for that.
Yeah, it seems. I was thinking about it. I was like, you know what? Well, I actually didn't. I thought you could only get them for the narratives. I didn't know the natures were
Oh,
an
gotcha.
option, so,
Yeah. No. Yeah. So they're all nature's narratives and roots are just all out there for you folks to hit however they make sense for them to come up in the fiction during any phase of play. Roots I feel like tend to come up most in the regroup phase because you have the time to reflect, and that's kind of what roots are about. But if they happen to come up in free play in the venture phase, that's great too. But speaking of those sorts of things, the next part of the regroup phase is basically just like a chance to reassess. I don't know that it's super necessary at this point because it's early in the gameplay, but basically this is the point where you could change or subtly rewrite a roleplay prompt if you felt like play has kind of influenced how you see that, or you can do any of your advancement stuff if you have advancement stuff to do. So it feels like we're probably all in a fine place with that, but please speak up if you feel. Cool. All right. So we'll just skip reassess for now, and obviously if something happens between now and next week where you're like, "Oh, I felt like I want to see Frist go in more of this direction with this narrative," you can just edit it how you like. Okay. So then we're into our actual like regroup actions, which are a chance for you to dive back into your characters here and set some scenes. Now that they've got like a break here, right? Like things have kind of closed down all around them, and they are trapped effectively in within the bowels of the hierarchy in various ways. If we want, we can kind of get these folks all together and say that like they hit into everyone's shepherded into like this joint space, but i I also kind of would see where that wouldn't be the case for folks who are in the higher up sort of things. However, you are all kind of Sander kind of conveniently attached to someone who is all on this same echelon, and obviously the Claxons are about the current archivist who has been injured. So yeah, all that to say, what do you all want to see with your situation? Where are you and what are you doing?
I think Sandor and Frist are settled, right? We are definitely stuck together. Is that what we? So I kind of like the idea of the sort of like classic "we're stuck together alone in a space" thing, right? So,
Yeah, that's great.
I mean, I don't want to keep us apart from the other player characters any more than we have to, but I do kind of that does feel like the right thing to do right now. So
Totally agree. And we do this so much like scene by scene that it's not as though splitting the party really kind of you're not even really a party yet. So
Oh yeah. Oh, I mean, just the fact that like we're not just exclusively having scenes with each other, I suppose. Is what I
yeah,
mean.
exactly. Eventually, we'll all want to intermingle a little bit more. Yeah. But yeah, the regroup phase here, we can handle some recovery stuff if you need to, and so like we can have some flexibility. You don't have to be like confined to the library or the archives. You don't have to be confined to the hospital room, although obviously the hospital room is a decent place for you to be to start off. I saw Ferret, you'd like to be the only one in their hospital room for right now, and they can't find Frist. Yeah, that makes sense, right? They kind of got like
Yes.
shut in the archives. Cool. Well, here are the things that you can do in the regroup phase. You get 3 regroup actions by default, and you can use those to recover, as in get rid of your conditions, wounds, corruption, and recover vigor. You can use those to set a scene involving your roleplay prompts, like a route, engaging with one of your routes, or flash, like either in these can be flashbacks or anything like that. This is just a chance to give some exposition to the story and stuff like that in any way we want. And then, like I said, you can scavenge and craft and that sort of stuff, but it doesn't feel super relevant to the story at the moment. So
I'd love to do a flashback. Actually, I think it'd be fun.
yeah, let's have it. What and usually these should kind of involve one of your roleplay prompts, like a route or
Yeah. And can are these flashbacks? Are they like kind of dictated scenes by one person, or
however you want to play it? Yeah.
Okay. I think I'll just have a quick kind of brief dictated scene here. God, how's that for role playing game lingo? That's how you know I've been doing this too long, right? A vignette, we might call it in some other medium.
Vigor vignette.
Yeah. I think what it is, I think this is the first time, because we've alluded to it already. I think this is the first time that Frist and I met. And I think that it's the first time Frist and I met. And I think the scene, what we see is I am I'm really drunk, and Frist, I'm really drunk, and we're at this like kind of festival, this outdoor festival, right? And lots of people are milling around, and I think what happens is I'm kind of stumbling around, and I'm just like yelling about like how much, the oppressiveness of the hierarchy, like what a disaster, this is, and back in the old days, back during Old Vest, we did this, that, and the other, right? Like I'm kind of going on. And a lot of people are like laughing at me and giving me a hard time or whatever, and I'm just like, whatever, I'm so drunk, I don't care. And I think the way we kind of like connect initially is that Frist, like, instead of like laughing or encouraging me, Frist actually like kind of like coolly like challenges my thinking, right? Like actually tries to like, brings up a couple of like salient points that I have to contend with, right? And while this is happening and I'm listening to them say this, I think I just like, after they're done making their very good point and I'm sitting there trying to like think of a response, I just like pass out. Like I just like collapse and pass out. And then and I think a lot of people are like wanting to like, while I'm passed out, like wanting to, do things to my body, right? Like in a jokey way, like, draw on my face and stuff like that, right? Just kind of give me a hard time. But Frist actually like makes them all go away and stays with me until I recover. And so that's kind of where that's kind of how we first met.
It's so sweet. I love it. Cool. Yeah. So that's a little flashback scene for us, a little exposition on that relationship. So it'd be a good way to basically you can get as many AP mechanically speaking. You could take some AP equal to the number of recovery phase actions that you spend to do that scene. So
Oh, interesting. Okay.
so this would be something about maybe like the backstory between you two, or you could take them as a route as well if you'd like to now. But I could see it also as being like part of the backstory about being blinded by hurt, or part of the backstory about why love isn't worth it.
I think tell the story of the world before too. I think
Yeah,
because I think I
totally.
was probably doing that, right? Like
Cool.
I kind of hand waved it when I just said, but I think in the scene I was probably like about halcyonic times or whatever, which we all know as audience members were probably total bullshit. But like,
Yeah,
I
right.
just totally bought this line, right?
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So mechanically, my choices are: I have 3 action points.
Mm-hmm.
And I can spend them all on this scene, or can I do other things during the phase as well?
You can do other things. You've got a wound that you're carrying, right?
Yeah.
Which you could get rid of.
Okay. And that would be 1 if I did that as well?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, but we can kind of see that later, right? Like,
yeah, totally.
Okay. So I would just take 2 of them then, 2 AP then.
2 AP,
Mm-hmm.
2 action, 2 rest. Sorry. Damn it. We've changed the names of these things so many times. 2 regroup.
I think it would be 2 narrative AP, right?
Yeah. Whatever you're putting it in is great by me, and that's a narrative advancement for Jason.
Right.
Cool. When you fill a narrative advancement track, you can gain a new waypoint on your journey, or you can increase your max vigor.
I'll just bump my vigor up.
Cool. 10 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet. Okay. And then you have 1 regroup action left to spend on recovery when you want to do that. We can
do
that. However,
I could wait till other people do something and then. Yeah.
Cool. Who wants a thing?
I would like to scavenge. I've been in Frist's room after I met with the Archivist, just going through what was delivered to be input today.
That's amazing. All right. There are mechanics around this. So when you scavenge, you get basically like raw materials that you can use into like later craft or something like that. But in this sense, you're kind of scavenging to find a specific thing, right?
Yeah. I wanted to find things like I can use to like arm people of the rebellion with knowledge. So like I could find these as well. Because he'd have to input again today. That's odd. I'll check that just in case.
Cool. Yeah, and I guess I use craft in the loosest terms. Like you could take these raw materials of like some facts and later craft them into an asset that's a case for the rebellion,
or like tactical plans,
exactly,
or political assassination kind of stuff.
Yeah, totally. So anyway, give me a second to pull up the scavenging rules. The nice thing about writing with a writing partner is sharing the workload. The less nice thing is definitely not knowing all of the stuff right out of hand. But basically, we're looking at you doing just an action roll to do your actual scavenging. Oops, these are old rules. There we go. Okay. Loading it up. Well, first of all, what we need to do is get your action roll. So if you want to go ahead and start building that, for scavenging, it's just starts out at fair odds. So we don't need to consider the odds for that.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah.
So earlier we had established that I was kind of tearing stuff up and throwing things everywhere, and I kind of like left it like where it was very obvious what I was looking through at the time. So I think that might, in this particular situation, since they're scavenging through my stuff, would give them better than fair odds.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm just seeing this roll an applicable quality with relevant modifiers. Odds are set by the table. So there you go. Yeah,
I think that was promising instead of if it's
sounds great.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll go with that. And
Cool.
I
Yeah, your
don't
action
think this
roll-
adds any of my nature's assets or waypoints.
No, I think we're just looking at a straight whatever quality you're rolling off of roll. Yeah.
Woot.
Heyo. Yeah, 4 and a 6 is a 10. So we're going to consult the challenge tiers here. For a 3, you get, a 2. You get a rating 2 raw material asset, however you want to describe that. Just information from the archivist's office, or however you like.
Okay. And
You've spent 1 regroup action. You can have 2 more if you want them.
let's see. I think I'll probably do a narrative action to do like the never like when you start a debate, finish it. And
Cool.
I think like, this is a flashback of Frist walking through the like she as Dylarama is going through the archives, like she remembers walking around with Frist, and Frist is like, but no, you say X, like, but that's not true. You can say Y, and then say why you're saying Y, and if they have questions, you go, it's like, that takes too long. Say X. No, but if you say Y, that is the truth. And these people come to you for the truth. I'm supposed to be neutral and objective, and I think it just gets to the point where we're walking in like almost a figure 8 just around this room where I will not leave Frist alone. And they slam a book down and turn to Dylarama. I was like, say whatever you're going to say. Just stop saying it to me.
Oh, that is gold. That is gold. That's so good. Yeah. So yeah, you spend it. We get a little more insight into that information and that relationship, which I can't wait to see how that develops.
And like, I have to be like as old as the Archivist is now at that time.
Yeah, totally. Cool, love it. So yeah, then you can take another.
I'll just take 2 points to that.
Yeah, excellent. Sweet. All right, so that's all 3 for Dylarama. Who's next?
I had a couple thoughts, and if that's okay with you, Chris. I definitely wanted to do a flashback for one of these, but I needed to establish a rough timeline first. So, how old-ish is Dylarama? Because I'm imagining that, like, we said that kids were taken pretty young, probably around when they were like 6 to 8 years old.
You weren't here when I did the story. I was the youngest archivist to ever input at age 9, and I think I debauched at age 18.
Okay.
But I currently, I think since the archivist that we have currently was brought in at 4, so I'm mid 30s to late 30s now, probably, or no, probably just mid 30s.
Okay. So that would mean basically you've been long done when I was training this child basically when you didn't need mentorship anymore. Because they're how old is the archivist now?
The archivist is 16, I believe, and I'm fine with you being able to have like been training a replacement for like you saw it coming, and maybe like you took Sandor's child before the replacement was called for, which is one of the reasons they're so mad.
Ooh, no, I don't.
Okay. That's fine.
I actually have a different direction with how.
Well, I think
Okay.
we've settled that
Yeah.
Frist was not lying about
Gotcha.
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah, Frist didn't know
Yeah.
until a week before. Like that was legitimately true. And I want that to stay true. That Frist didn't know that they were taking that child. But I do think
True.
that them being called for early, maybe that could have been a direct result of Frist saying, like, "Look, I don't like where this is going. Something is going wrong with the Archivist, and
That
we
could be
have to
why
find a
Frist didn't
replacement."
know.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm worried. Okay, we'll solve that worry. This did not do what you promised.
Yeah, I think that would definitely would fit for both of those angles. So with that, I did want to do a flashback to the day that Frist found out the child that was chosen, that a child was chosen, and that it was the child they were helping raise with their one and only lover, who hates
Oh god.
the argument, the government. I wanted to do a flashback to that because that was probably like the worst day of Frist's life.
This is such an intense scene. I'm ready.
Okay, so Frist got word from the machine. They had been consulting with the machine for a few months now about the state of affairs relating to the current archivist before the name Dylarama was taken. So it's still just the archivist at this time. And they were worried because they were seeing a rise in certain activities that were super, violent. And the archivist was old enough and had experienced enough. They weren't really in need of Frist anymore, but they were sure stirring things up. And they were worried, and then finally, this child was chosen. And so, do we have an established name for the archivist before they were taken? Do you guys want to establish that now?
I love the idea of never saying it personally. I
Okay.
think it kind of like adds to the mystique and the sort of, it's symbolic of like that part of that character's life being gone. So I just say my son, and
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's something super very cyberpunk about this that I really like, in the bad way of cyberpunk. That I was given a district number and a number for a child. Like everyone has like a number and a district number based on where they live or whatever. So I was given that district number, and I knew when I was handed that district number that it was the kid that I was helping, you raise now. I'd been living with you for 2 years at this point or something like that. Going back and forth between your place, and I find out that it's that kid, and I don't tell you for the first 3 days. And that first day I just don't talk to you. It's the first day in months where I don't see you, I don't talk to you, and I'm alone and panicking, and I finally come to you 2 days later, because it's, instead of just 1 day, it's 3 days later, and I come to Sandor, and I tell Sandor before I'm supposed to. And we start fighting. And one of the things I remember very clearly, I want to emphasize in this flashback that happens, is that I tell you there is no choice. And you tell me that there is always a choice. And I said, the choice is they take them or all three of us die. And that's kind of the thing that we kind of keep fighting back and forth about, that maybe it would have been better to just stand up for that child and maybe die than let them be taken. And, I tried to resolve it over that week. I keep coming back to you saying, please, we can move together. I can sneak you access. I can make sure that no matter what, you will always know your child. And you don't believe me every time, and we keep fighting, and Frist just totally can't. And on the day that they are taken, they never, like, they don't see you except when it's forced. And when they do, it's always bad like it was that first time today. That flashback was really, I think, relevant to today, remembering all of that, remembering the one and only time that they kind of had this. I think I'm good on that flashback. I definitely want to spend all of my narrative AP on that. I really do.
Yeah. Oh man, that was so beautiful, James. Just absolutely nailed it. Whew, good stuff. Yeah. So hit it up. You can take all three of those and just it feels completely inappropriate to just start talking about the mechanics of that also right in the wake of that. So I'll just give that a second and we'll come we can come back. Oh man, that was lovely. Okay. Does anyone need a second? We're okay. Cool. We're circling the wagons. I figure we'll end kind of tonight at the end of this recovery phase. And we can pick up next week with more venture phase and story stuff. But yeah. Cool. So yeah, we've got Chris left for your regroup actions and stuff. Yeah, unfortunately, James, everyone's seeing the rest of us tear up while you talk. So that was lovely. Yeah, now we know. Okay, so we've got Chris, the archivist, left to do. So go for it. What are you up to?
So I've actually got an idea for a scene that I was going to play anyway. So this might be a little bit of a flash forward. Because I do want to play out that scene with Dylarama, maybe next session, waking up back in the hospital room. But what I'm thinking is that I'm going to work with my route. And so this will be after I get out of the hospital. We'll sort of see how that plays out. But I get back into my quarters and it's kind of late in the evening. So I'm kind of like just turning in for the night. And everyone's leaving me alone because I'm tired and they want me to be able to recover. So no one's bothering me. And I go to a chest and I open up the chest. It's kind of like a Foot Locker sort of thing. And I pull out this toy. We'll say it's like kind of a stuffed bear sort of thing, because I think that kind of signals what the toy represented. And I'm going to sort of look at that. I'm going to bring it over to a desk. I'm going to place it on the desk, sit down in a chair at the desk, sort of scoot back a few feet. Look at the bear, sort of like stare at it maybe for like a solid minute. And I'm going to ask it, but also really asking the voice in my head, who are you?
Oh God, that's great. What happens, Chris? What happens when you ask the bear? What does the archivist see happen?
I see the bear start to move and talk. Whether someone who walked in would see that or not, I don't know. But what I see is it starts speaking.
Its name is its true name, Teddy Ruxpin.
And its voice is the same voice that I've been hearing in my head.
Yeah. Is it? I hear it. I mean, doesn't matter how I hear it, I guess. But I hear it like kind of glitchy and computery, right? Mm-hmm. But like, yeah, it's Mark. It sounds like Mark Wahlberg-y, and it ends up being a really bad movie. Yeah. Okay. So cool. Yeah, that's a scene with your route. Do you want it to end there? Do you have more stuff that you want it to happen?
We could keep going, but maybe we sort of come back to this after we've sort of established other stuff next session.
Yeah, I kind of love leaving that just hanging for sure.
Cool.
Cool. So that's you'll want to spend some AP to recover from your condition, I would assume, as well. You don't have to, but
I'm kind of of two minds on that.
Yeah.
I kind of like the idea of like leaving that condition to let it impact the narrative a little bit.
Sure.
On the other hand, I could see maybe removing that condition and turning it into like kind of combining with the root in a way.
Mhm.
So the root maybe now represents something different. So I have like a I'm not sure what the word would be, but like basically I've got an avatar for the voice now, so it doesn't just pop in my head randomly. I have to talk to the bear to talk to it.
It's convenient that you say that, Chris, because roots are exactly the way that you fight conditions.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah. Because the roots ground your character and they remind them of who they are and who they were and what they stand for. So when you do a scene with your roots, you can either do that to like gain roots AP or to recover from conditions.
Mhm.
So if you want, you can spend all 3 of your rest phase actions to recover from the kind of condition of being affected by this voice in your head as you
Mhm.
kind of transplant it to this avatar of the toy.
Mhm.
And then you might consider like playing with what that route looks like down the road, or even between now and next session as you kind of reassess or rewrite that route. So that's an option. Or you can leave the condition and take the roots AP. It depends on how you want to play it mechanically. But
I think I like the idea of removing the condition, and then I'll just sort of narratively work that into the to the root.
Cool. Yeah. So you spend your 3 group actions to get rid of all 3 degrees of your condition. Sweet.
I'm cured, Doc.
Yeah, all better now that I've got this talking bear. This shouldn't be a problem going forward. I can't see how that would come up. And then, yeah, Jason, we just need to deal with your wounds if you want to. This can be like a flash sideways, forward, however, to just kind of get you doctored up, or a flashback to say that you're doctored up now.
Yeah, I actually am going to forego the wound recovery because I really, really feel like this is a great opportunity to do a little echo or a mirror of what the Archivist just did.
Nice.
Because I think I brought the toy that I keep. That was the toy that was that like I got into a fight with my son about, right? Because I thought it was childish stuff, right? And I think like as we're kind of sitting in this space, and for the time being, Frist and I are just sort of not talking, right? Like not being super chatty with each other right now while Frist is doing whatever they're doing in the archive. And I take out that toy, which at this point is I think it was already kind of like just a very plain, simple kind of toy, a burlap, stuffed thing or whatever, right? Doll thing. And I'm thinking back on the fight or the argument. Like, it wasn't really an argument because my son was so young. It was more just like me, like being an asshole, basically, right? It's like if you ever like a dick thing that I hate that parents do, like when I see them out like at the grocery store or whatever, is like when their kid like wants like an ice cream or something, and the parent like doesn't acknowledge their desire in a productive way, or like doesn't like acknowledge that like they're not thinking about like what is appropriate or not appropriate at any given moment, and they just kind of are like, no, like just really like dismissive of the kid or whatever. Like and I always think that like in little moments like that, like your childhood kind of like dies a little bit, or worse, the reverence that you hold your parents in kind of like is sullied a little bit, right? And I think it's like one of those moments. I think like I'm thinking back on when I kind of like yanked it out of his hands. At this point, I was already very upset because I kind of knew what was going to happen, I kind of knew like what like Frist told me what was supposed to happen, and I think I was almost like angry at my son's like being just a boy, being a child, right? Like this is a time when I needed him to be like, kind of like older. I resented his childhood, right? Because it was in part causing all of this to happen, right? And I was just pissed. And of course, like it made him cry. But I couldn't bring myself to apologize or to comfort him. And it was like the next day that like they took him away. And so I have this toy and I'm thinking about it. And I think everything that I want to make better in my clumsy way is like all poured into this toy, symbolically. So yeah. And so I think I'd just like to take an AP on that route.
It always feels like such a jarring way to step out of those scenes. But yeah.
In conclusion, I would like to take it
In conclusion, I'd like my point, please. Thank you.
All that to say.
Yeah. But no, and I think and I think like I think like if Frist like sees me with it, or like if I think that they see me with it, I will like immediately like put it away, right? And just like not go there. So
love it all. You folks have made me teary so many times tonight. It's beautiful. I love these expositions. I love as we see your characters kind of just ruminate on what's happened to them and what's happening now and all of their various ways. It's absolutely lovely and beautiful. Thanks for making such really phenomenal human beings to get to watch play a game.
Sorry, I actually think I do want to change how much narrative AP I spend on that other flashback to 2. I had a small route that I wanted to take.
Cool, yeah.
Related to this, and it's another very, very brief flashback, but Frist actually remembers their family before they were taken and has never seen them since. And I think that's a parallel to that when they had to take the child away themselves, and that was very traumatic for them too. And there is a root from that I wanted to have. I don't really want to describe this scene in depth because I kind of just want to leave it a little bit there. But they have a small item from their mother. And that's that they've been keeping, and that's why they were reflecting on it and reflecting on the other flashback as well.
Cool. Yeah, that's great. You can either add that to your third spot on your roots there, or you can change one of your other ones if you feel like it's not important to you at the moment as well. So however you want to do that is totally cool. Cool. Well, I think that's going to be it for us for tonight. We'll catch up next week, and we'll pick up in the hospital and see the Archivist hooked up to all of the various things as they have some tests run on them and stuff like that. We'll kind of catch back just a little bit before that with them and Dylarama, and we'll try to hit some more of those wishes of seeing more Sandor and Dylarama, more Dylarama and Frist. So yeah, next week, Dylarama Central. I wouldn't miss it. So yeah, I'll stop the broadcast here. We can chat off air. Anybody wants. Go from there.